Hi guys, welcome back to Miscellaneous Pleasures. I'm back with the third episode of Dark. So last time on Dark, I do remember most of the things, so I don't really need my notes, even though I'm going to look at it. Um, I've written on Katharina's birthday, though I don't think it's going to be any useful that piece of information. Uh, we had Claudia meeting Claudia, I think the older version meeting her younger version in 87. They had that discussion first of all, believe me that believe me when I say that I am your older self. And then she went on to provide the proof where she was just showing like her assistant walking towards a cabin, and like there were two guys, one of them dropped a pen on purpose to, well, because he was a, what's the term I should use here, not the best kind of person. Uh, so that happened, and then she also gave her the time machine through what it's called as a time hack in the Arrowverse. Uh, yeah, we had Jonas and when I say Jonas, I mean the stranger Jonas and Hannah go to 87. They met Mikkel. No, they did not meet Mikkel, but then she saw Mikkel and then like sort of had that, in my opinion, a wonderful scene where not something I expected from Hannah, and I believe that those emotions were genuine because at some point of time, surely they had some feelings for each other. That's why they got married. That's why they had a kid, and I'm pretty sure that they had a good married life. Like it wasn't a case of a bad marriage. Anyways, not delving into it too much. Um, the thing that I've written down here is that they time traveled from the cave. Like we saw how that time machine worked. Like it sort of formed a black ball around them and then they disappeared. Uh, couldn't they have done that in the house? Like, is it some sort of a necessity that they have to use a time machine inside the cave, or is something else? Or is it nothing and they just chose to do it from the cave because they wanted to? Like, I don't know the reason is. But I wonder if there is a reason behind that. Uh, I've written down, yeah, I've written down Egon talks to Helga, and I've written down White Devil. I think Helga mentioned something about the White Devil. I'm not sure what he mentioned. I think, yeah, Helga mentioned something about White Devil, and Egon had like this reaction of, "Oh, you mentioned that when you were a kid too." Like, I don't know if you saw anything like that. I don't remember anything, at least. If I, well, if I may say so, continuing from yesterday. Uh, uh, yeah, Charlotte's parents, not somebody, I mean, we don't know who they are. Like, not something that I even realized till it was actually mentioned as a question. Like, wait, who are her parents? Like, we haven't been introduced to them. And we haven't actually seen anybody in the 86 an adult who could have been. And since it's a time travel show, I believe it has to be some time traveler. Like I wonder who it is though. Like I can't think of anybody. Uh, Ulrich is stuck in 1953. I mean, he was stuck in 1953 in the last season, and he is still like he never really time traveled back. So 34 years, 53 to 87, he has been there, and yeah, we had that wonderful scene, in my opinion, where he absolutely roasted Egon. First with the song, my only aim is to take many lives. The more the better I feel. That, and then he also talked about Egon's death. He talked about how he was a fool and that he had no idea what was going on. Uh, he also said a couple of other things I don't really remember, but then that scene was great and that casting was fantastic. I found out that guy who plays the older Ulrich is not the guy who plays the younger Ulrich. And it was kind of obvious from their face, but then it was also not so obvious. Like, if you had told me that Ulrich's, the actor's real father, was playing his dad in the show, I would have believed you. That was on point. Um, yeah, and then we had Jonas traveling back to somewhere. I mean, I think it's traveling back and not traveling forward. But then he traveled to somewhere. I just don't know where it was. We don't know, rather. Uh, I believe he could possibly. I mean, till now, all we have seen is a 33-year sort of cycle. So by that logic, he would come to 2020. But then this show has to, at some point of time, break the 33-year cycle. Like, I feel like they have to. Like, it's sort of a restriction that you don't want to keep to yourself. I mean, you have such a wonderful thing called as time travel, which can literally allow you to do almost anything in terms of storylines. And why would you want to restrict yourself to a 33-year cycle? Like, you have to break it somewhere. So if they do decide to break it with this sort of a time travel mechanism, then she could literally go to anywhere, like 20, not 20, but then 1987. Why not? Maybe he goes to 1987 and he grows up to be the stranger that we know. Like, I mean, that's very much possible. For all we know, he literally, well, I mean, he wouldn't, well, I'm regressing here too much. Uh, yeah, so I have written on a couple more points, but then none of them really that important. So yeah, I'm ready for today. Like, it feels like, I mean, at the same time, I have been watching two shows now. Like, actually, even if you add WandaVision to the list along with Dark and Stranger Things, I'm watching three TV shows now, and even though WandaVision is slightly different from these two, in the fact that it doesn't have a second season, it's just a TV series, that's it. Like, it is not ever going to have another season of show. But the point still remains that, like, when WandaVision started, it started off on a slow note, like building up the pace. And it's understandable if that's what happened with Dark and Stranger Things too. But and Stranger Things, like, I don't really want to talk about WandaVision. Forget it. Why did I even mention that? So let's take Dark and Stranger Things, right? Like, Stranger Things season two has started off on a slow note again. Not very slow, but then comparatively slower than how it finished. Dark, on the other hand, almost seems to me like it never really slowed down. Like, let's say it was going, it started on three on a scale of 1 to 10, started on a three, and then went to a 4, 5, and then stayed on 6, 7, and then by the end it was like on 8. And this season has started off on a 7, I feel like. The only way to go is upwards, I feel like. So, definitely, strong start to the season, and I'm really looking forward to the third episode. Uh, yeah. So, here we go.
Ich habe gesehen, wie du
Wait,
aufwächst.
wait, you're back here? The blue room?
Wie du zum Mann wirst.
It's Helge!
Den ganzen Kreislauf deines Lebens. Sie sieht und hört alles, was du tust oder sprichst.
Wait, okay, so this machine has changed. It covers the whole body now. Okay, that's the opening. Okay, so that was interesting. I mean, okay, so this is how Helge goes back to 1953 by the same time machine that did not work on the first three kids. So, I mean, okay. I mean, it is interesting. I have been absolutely dumb. Like, I just realized Noah didn't actually kill the three kids. He was just using them for experiment. I mean, yeah, he did kill them, obviously, like to take the literal sense. But then he did not kill them for a reason, like murder them directly. He was just testing his time machine, and it works. Surely it has to work because Helga obviously grows up in the 50s. Uh, yeah, and then he used that thing, that tube that we saw. Wait, when did we see that? Last season, right? We saw that thing on episode 9 when Stranger Eunice was doing something in that truck. Yeah, that was when we saw it. So yeah, and then he's obviously made the machine big. Like doesn't it just doesn't cover the eyes; it also covers the whole bloody body. Maybe that was a trick. I don't know. It goes. Oh,
Claudia, bist du nicht schon los?
yeah,
Ich,
that's
ich habe das
awkward.
Milchgeld vergessen. Aber ist schon in Ordnung. Warte.
This has been a very weird episode.
Regina, warte.
She is starting to realize the relationships in her life after meeting her older self. Like I guess a lot of people would do.
Mir gefällt, wie du dein Haar jetzt trägst.
She's even complimenting her. I mean,
Erwachsen.
I'm not sure she did a lot of that before.
Danke. Ich habe keine Zeit. Ich muss los.
Die Zeit ist immer mit dir, egal wohin du gehst. Du trägst sie in dir und sie trägt dich. Sie hört und sieht alles, was du tust und sprichst.
I mean, if he is going into the bunker, then she definitely knows something about time travel. Claudia.
Hat dich jemand gesehen?
Okay, wait, they're working together?
Heute zurückgeschickt. Noah ist auch zurück.
Ich habe keine Angst mehr vor ihm.
Ihr tragt das gleiche Blut.
Man kann
Hey.
sich in der Familie nicht
Wait,
aussuchen.
what?
Sich vom Blut frei machen heißt sich frei machen.
Wait, Noah is. Wait, it said you both have the same blood, right? So Noah is a brother? Wait, that doesn't make sense. Because I was under the impression till now that Noah was the husband. I know there was also a statement about him, like about the husband, of course, that he was a pastor and that. Yeah, there was something else also I remember where I was like, yeah, that definitely means that Noah was the husband. I don't know. Okay. Okay, this is interesting.
Trotzdem prägt uns unsere Familie unser Leben lang. Meine Mutter liebt dich, weißt du das? Sie wird dich sehr glücklich machen, wenn du sie lässt.
Wait, she literally walked in on. When I say she, I mean Claudia literally walked in on her mother and Agnes this very episode and possibly this very day. And Agnes meets the older version. Ooh, wow. I mean, time travel is.
Heterochromie. Blaues Auge.
Wait, what?
Eine Braue.
She has. Yeah, she does. I mean, this is the first time I've noticed it. Wow.
Sie haben dieses Buch geschrieben.
Ich habe mich gefragt, wann es soweit ist. Der weiße Teufel.
Weiter.
Wissen Sie, wer das ist?
Du bist ja verwirrt.
Wait, why is he asking about the white devil to Ulrich? I mean, yeah, I guess he would have to
Warum haben Sie
Ulrich.
uns nie gesagt, wie Sie heißen? Wer Sie sind?
Okay, he never disclosed his name.
Ulrich.
And he's done it now.
Nielsen. Und ich komme aus der Zukunft.
Wait, what?
Ich bin das, was man einen Hochstapler nennt.
Wow. I mean, okay. I mean, interesting, right? Like, I remember, yeah, I think it was the last scene of ninth episode of season one, where the older Claudia gave Tannhaus the blueprint of the time machine, and I mean, right now he's telling this middle-aged Claudia that, you gave me the, well, you told me that I would have to explain to you how this time machine works. And it was explained to me by somebody last year or the previous year. I'm guessing that that somebody was Stranger Eunice because she was the one who met Tannhaus in season 1 in 86. So, or at least he was the one that we were shown as meeting Tannhaus. So, I mean, it's marvelous and sort of. I want a better word than interesting here. Like, it's just astounding how intricate the plot of the show is. Like, honestly, it's just brilliant. Yeah, I was just speechless there for a moment, and I wanted to pause and sort of.
Ist mir unheimlich. Als ob innen ganz leer wäre, nur noch eine Hülle. War nie das hellste Kind, aber jetzt könnte man fast glauben, wäre stumpfsinnig.
Noah,
Macht mir
what's he doing here?
Und mit Bernd nicht im Haus weiß ich nicht, wie ich der Lage Herr werden soll.
Die Zeit ist immer mit dir. Egal wohin du gehst. Du trägst sie in dir. Und sie trägt dich.
Wait,
Sie sieht und hört alles, was du tust.
wait, this is literally what Helga told Claudia.
Deine Mutter macht sich Sorgen um dich.
When I say Helga told Claudia, I mean the middle-aged Helga in 87. Time is with you. It hears everything you say.
Ich möchte, dass du etwas
Something like that.
tust. Tust du das?
Lorazepam.
Ich schlafe in letzter Zeit wieder schlecht. Ich habe Albträume.
Noch eine Sache. Hättest du vielleicht ein Foto von dem Jungen? Nur für die Akten.
Wait.
Im Gegenzug will ich, dass du Adam sagst, dass ich zurück will, bevor der
Okay.
Mordzyklus beginnt.
I'm not
Du opferst sie.
convinced. Yeah, I'm not convinced by this. Like,
Du kannst deine eigene Schwester
what
nicht so hassen, wie
she,
du sie hast.
the way she behaved with Claudia seemed genuine. And this, on the other hand, I mean, one obvious explanation is spying
Betrachte
on
es als einen
Claudia
Fluch.
for him. But I don't know. Claudia, what are you doing
Kann ich Ihnen helfen?
here?
Es tut mir leid.
Why?
Was tut Ihnen leid?
Why is she
Alles.
okay? Why is
Was
she
nichts
meeting with
davon
him? Like,
verdient.
as far as I know, Egon has no clue about time travel.
Aber manchmal trifft es die Guten am härtesten.
Yeah, and till now we have seen only time travelers talk to their younger self or anybody. Like,
Und dann will ich, dass du weißt,
only people who time travel.
dass es mir leid tut, dass die Dinge so
Egon is not a time
sind, wie sie
traveler,
gekommen sind.
so what is going on here?
Sind die für Mama?
And he brought her flowers and she is well.
Du bist ein zu guter Mensch, Papa.
She,
Die Welt hat dich nicht verdient.
wait. Wait, that's exactly what the older version of Claudia just told him.
Alles in Ordnung.
And this makes things worse because he was suspecting her to be a bitch and he's going to believe it now. Wow. Oh boy.
Ich habe immer gedacht, das Schlimmste, was einem im Leben passieren kann, ist das eigene Kind zu verlieren.
Dann werden wir uns wiedersehen.
Bevor Sie sterben.
Danach.
Oh, this guy is tripping.
Wie soll es möglich sein?
Time travel.
Zeit ist nur eine Illusion. Sie werden mir dann den Apparat erklären müssen.
Ich weiß nicht, wozu er da ist. Warum sagen Sie mir nicht, wozu er da ist?
Weil Sie mir gesagt haben, dass es Ihnen jemand anderes erklärt hat. Die Dinge gehen ihren Weg, so wie sie es immer getan
Oh
haben.
boy.
Nein, ich habe ihn
This guy is gonna lose it.
Niemand
And
hat
then
mir
take the
was
time machine.
Nicht jetzt.
Oh, he knows. He knows, doesn't he? He knows about them.
Ist das hier? Unser Treffen, du
Has always happened.
nur ein Teil eines Spiels, von dem du immer noch nicht weißt, wie man es spielt.
Du glaubst, du kannst mich mit deinen Worten manipulieren.
Aber frag dich, ob du wirklich frei bist. Wenn du wirklich frei wärst, hättest du eine Wahl.
That,
Hast du eine
that's a good point. Like, yeah. I don't know. She's going to die, isn't she? Like, she has known this for a while, I feel like. Yeah, she has known this for a while. I'm guessing that's the newspaper article that she gave Agnes. And that's why we have seen her return the time machine to her younger self. We have seen her apologize to her dad. We have seen her go to Tannhaus and tell him that, you know what, mate, make that time machine and explain to my younger self how it works. Because you told me that some other person explained it to you in the future. Yeah. So Claudia is dead. But it's the game, right? Like she mentioned it. Just because she's dead doesn't mean that she has lost the game because time travel. and I'm guessing these are the last pages of the notebook.
Ist nie wahr.
Wait, what?
Charlotte.
A lot of.
Nein, das stimmt aber nicht. Das ist nicht wahr.
Wait, what happened?
Der all unsere Leben miteinander verbindet.
She has just seen her father, found out that her father has cancer and has seen
Hatte
the
sie die
future
Seiten
where her
dabei.
daughter has cancer. Wait, what? Did he just lie to Adam?
Sie hat bekommen, was sie verdient hat. Am Ende bekommen wir alle, was wir verdient haben.
Wait a second. Is Egon Adam? Wait a second. Like, I'm pretty sure Egon said that line. Like, in the end, we get what we deserve or something like that. Okay, I'm not. Okay, this is interesting. I think that was a good episode. That wasn't as good as the first two episodes, but I feel like a lot of things still happened in it. Like, I felt like this episode was much more slower paced than the first two episodes. Like, the first two episodes, I almost felt like there was just an information bomb. Like, for instance, this episode, we did not even go to 2019 or 2020, right? Right in the end, like, we saw the middle-aged Claudia seeing Regina having cancer and like standing in that balcony. I think that was the first scene that we saw from 2020. Unless, of course, I'm mistaken and we saw something. Yeah, I can't recollect anything, so I'm pretty sure I'm correct. Okay. So we obviously saw Noah kill Claudia, and I will get to that later. I'll probably start chronologically, as in what I saw first and stuff like that. But then I have to rewatch this part of this episode because I'm pretty sure Egon said something to Ulrich, or was it somebody else, about. Uh, yeah, he was talking to Ulrich about how losing a child is like the worst pain or something a person can have. And then this episode was almost like focused around, well, it was focused on a lot of people, but then Egon was one of those people. I mean, we saw this episode was just an illustration of how sort of difficult Egon's life has been. Like, especially being a policeman, like, imagine if time travel exists and literally everybody around you is part of a time traveling sort of cult, and you aren't, and you don't even know of its existence. I mean, your life is going to be much more difficult than otherwise. So, in that regard, we got answers to a lot of questions. Like, I even now I remember the scene from, I think it was fifth or sixth episode in season one, where Egon is like Egon gives a ride to Jonas in '86, and he asks Jonas about, do you know of, if anybody is like believes in Satanism or something, and then that was that. And then there was a song, obviously, that Ulrich played in his room, and then Ulrich in 1953 told Egon about. my only aim in life is to take my only aim is to take my life, the more the better I feel. Like that line. I mean, if you are going to be a person who believes that Satanism exists, and then you see somebody mention these lines, you'll be like, wait, what? Is that is that like their song or something? Like, I don't know. That's obviously, if you don't know it's a song, then you would wonder what those words mean and what context they belong to. So there was that. And then he has had this, if you look at his younger self, then he has had this kid who disappeared and then suddenly randomly appeared after like 7, 8 months. Um and then you have this white devil thing. I'm not really sure when white devil is mentioned to him, but then there's this white devil stuff that is also going around, that is pretty much around his life. Uh, so yeah, and then there's obviously the sad part of his wife cheating on him. His life is basically sort of, yeah. I mean, I do feel for Egon, to be fair, and I do believe that he's a good guy. So there's that. Um, Especially, I mean, season one, I thought like Egon was just one of those policemen that did not really use their brains and sort of did what they wanted because they could. But in season two, like, makes a lot more sense as character. Uh, I mean, this episode started off in a very weird sort of fashion with Agnes going down on Egon's wife. And then we saw Toronto showing Claudia his, well, his man parts. I'm not really sure what was going on there, but then this was obviously a beginning of the relationship that they had, the affair that they had in their sort of when they got older. So there's that. And then we had Claudia being nice to Regina, and I believe that from here on onwards, from next episode, we are also going to see her being nice to Egon, because she knows that Egon is going to die, and she knows that Regina has cancer. That's why she was. Well, I don't know if she knew that Regina had cancer, but then she obviously knew about the fact that this whole time travel business, like her older self told her that, if everything goes to plan, then Regina will be alive. Like, so this Claudia, I guess, I mean, that's why she was nice to Regina, because she knew that her time with Regina was coming to an end. We then found out that Noah was actually Agnes's brother. Like, there were really strong clues to point towards the fact that Agnes and Noah weren't siblings, but they were husband and wife. But then we obviously found out categorically that Noah is actually Agnes's brother and not husband. But they do have that some sort of a bittersweet relationship, I feel like. And I mean, there was a scene where Agnes was. Agnes showed that newspaper article to Noah and then wanted to be back with that Sigmundus team, and also told him about the missing pages, which I will come to later. So it almost felt like she was sort of betraying Claudia, but then was that the plan all along? I don't know. I feel like Claudia is a much more brilliant person than Noah. I feel like she's playing the game pretty well. I'm not really sure if Noah killing Claudia was sort of like, how to say this. But of course, that was always going to happen. Like, this TV show till now has sort of maintained the fact that time cannot be rewritten even though time travel exists. Or at least till now, it hasn't been shown that it can be rewritten. But I don't know. I feel like Claudia is much more of a player in this game, if I may say so, than Noah is. So that's interesting. And then we also, I mean, this was the bootstrap thing that we saw in this episode. Tannhaus, Claudia, and the book. Yeah, I mean, they did explain the bootstrap paradox pretty well. I mean, I've seen Doctor Who sort of delve into this in one of the season 9 episodes. I think it was Under the Lake or Over the Water or something, where Peter Capaldi basically explains the bootstrap paradox using the Beethoven example. This show also does a very good job of explaining it. I feel like the whole sort of, I mean, if Agnes and Noah are brothers, like are siblings, it still works out, right? Because Agnes is Ulrich's grandmother, and so which means Ulrich is in a way like a cousin grandfather or something. I mean, Noah is a cousin grandfather of Ulrich, which means he is related. I mean, anyways, we know that Ulrich and Jonas and everybody of those is related. Jonas is Hannah's son, so there is that relation there. I mean, I feel like this whole show has people being interrelated to each other by blood. So yeah, I mean, it almost feels like the show in itself is sort of a bootstrap. Not really, but then yeah, somewhat. So yeah. Um, yeah, I mean, I am going to get into this. I've written down Florazepam. I wonder what Florazepam is. I mean, when I say she, I mean, what's her name? Jonas's grandmother, Ines. So when she and Egon had this conversation about Mikkel, towards the end, there was this Lorazepam which she sort of tried to hide, and then she said that, you know what, I have sleeping troubles and stuff like that. So is Lorazepam used as a sleep drug or something, or is it used to do something else? It's a drug which is a okay, benzodiazepine. Diazepam. It produces hypnotic sedative. Okay, so muscle relaxant. Okay, so it is a sleep drug, somewhat at least. Okay, okay, so that's that. But yeah, I think the main sort of mystery right now is around. It's around the missing pages. But yeah, the one thing that I have written down obviously is that old Claudia meets Egon, and then there was this whole statement about you are a good man and the world doesn't deserve you, something like that. Old Claudia tells this to Egon, and then he goes to his home and then finds his daughter, the younger version of Claudia, the youngest version of Claudia that we know, saying the same thing to him. Sort of like, I guess, he called her a witch, the older Claudia. I guess this makes sense. Especially after you sort of find your own daughter saying the same words just a few hours after you hear it being said by somebody else who behaved in a very sort of curious and intriguing way. Yeah. The missing pages, like, I don't know, like this doesn't make really any sense to me, but then I mean, no, I'm pretty sure that what he read in those last moments were the missing pages. So, and then he was sort of like not believing them. Like when he was reading it, almost felt unlike Noah, like the way he behaved, it was like, oh no, this can't be right. This can't be right. Charlotte, oh no, this can't be right. Like this is what he basically said. So like, I mean, one thing that we don't know is that Charlotte doesn't have. I mean, she obviously has parents, but then we don't know who her parents are. Is Noah the father? Does that even make sense? I mean, it could make sense because Noah is a time traveler, so it won't be that difficult to sort of have Charlotte, like, I mean, if you think about it, Charlotte is what? I mean, she was a teenager in 86. So she must have a birth year about 72, 73. The thing with Noah is there's no, I mean, there's no point in talking about 72 or 73 because Noah is a time traveler. I mean, but then even if Noah is a time traveler, like, who could be the mother then? Like, the mother has to be at least mid 20s in 72, which means must have been born somewhere in the late 40s, like 48, 49. Unless, of course, the mother is also a time traveler, then this whole thing is busted. Because, I mean, as far as I know, do we know any other females who are time traveling apart from Claudia? I'm pretty sure Claudia is not the mother. Like, come on. It would be funny if she had, like, if that turned out to be what's the reality. I mean, apart from Claudia, do we have any other female time travelers? I can't think of anybody. No, I can't think of anybody. So let's go under the presumption that the mother is not a time traveler. Maybe she could know of time travel, but then I'm not sure if she's also a time traveler because the only time traveler in female we know is Charlotte. It's not Charlotte. It's Claudia. So if we think that the mother is not a time traveler, then who could it be? Born in 48, 49. So in 1954, they must have been about 5 years old, 7 years old. What's the maximum? Like, even if the mother is about 30 years old when they had Charlotte, they would have to be about 10, 12 years old, right? 1954, 1953. Then that brings up possibilities because 12-year-old person in 1954, we know that Ulrich's mother was about 14, I don't know, 13, 14, and 54. Same goes for Ines. Wait, didn't Ines have a child that was stillborn or something? I'm pretty sure they said something like that in the first season. Like, I remember specifically about this because this was that moment when I sort of realized that Mikkel was Jonas's father. Like, I remember that scene in 5th episode it was, I think, when that adoption lady is talking to Ines and Ines goes like, I had a child or something like I'm pretty sure she said that she had a child. I wonder if I've written that in somewhere. I must have. Surely I have written that. Wait, have I written that down? No, I haven't. But I'm pretty sure it was somewhere there. Like, yeah. I don't know. Anyways, the point being, okay, it could be Ines, the mother, but then Ines must have known about Noah. Like, if she had known about Noah, then she must have known about time travel and stuff. Like, she wouldn't have behaved the way that she did if she knew about Noah. Like, I don't know. It can't be Ines. Even though the years make sense, the sort of person doesn't make any sense. Like, who else is Ines and Ulrich's mother's age? The grandmothers in 2020. Do we have any other grandmothers in 2020? I don't know. I don't know. Yeah. I mean, this is all under the assumption that, first of all, the mother is not a time traveler, and the second thing is Noah is a time traveler, and that Noah is the father. I'm pretty sure Noah is the father because it feels like, I don't know, it feels kind of very obvious to me that Noah is the father, but then it could very well be the case that Noah is not the father, but then like something else is happening with Charlotta. But then why would he care about it? I don't know. Oh, wow. Anyways, I can't think of anything else to talk about really. As I said, definitely the first half of this episode was pretty slow, and slow in terms of the way the story went on, not really in terms of what happened, but the way it was happening. Like it almost felt like there were just leisure conversations happening between people that haven't really mattered till now. And those conversations also did not really feel like they mattered all that much. But then they happened, and things did come out of those conversations that were useful throughout the episode. So I wouldn't say that this episode was poor in terms of information dump or in terms of. I probably rate this episode a 7.5 out of 10, which is I feel like some of the lowest ratings I've given for an episode of this show, which says something about the show, because if the worst episode is 7.5, then wow. Yeah. That's all for this reaction, guys. I can't really think of anything else. Please do leave your thoughts. Like, if you have any about the show, if I missed something. I am going to look at that Egon Adam thing because I don't know. Like, I mean, it could very well be the case that Egon and Adam are not really the same person, but then they are. I mean, they just said something that the other had spoken. So maybe it's not the case. It's just a saying that's kind of popular in the town. So maybe that's the case. I don't know. Anyways, yeah, that's all for this reaction, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.